Our story begins in the late 90s. Magic's on a hot streak, putting out killer sets one after another. Mirage, classic. Weatherlight, classic. Tempest, super classic. The card designs are both compelling and powerful, and players are loving it. In light of this positive reception, WotC seems to move towards putting fewer resources into card testing. After all, if it's going this well, how hard can quality control really be? This is like pulling on a rubber band to test its elasticity, but sometimes when you pull on the band, it breaks, and break it did. Urza Saga drops in 1998, and oh boy, less playtesting than normal, and a late decision to switch the focus from enchantments to artifacts ends up riddling it with issues. This standard environment is busted in so many ways. There were easy routes to make an insane amount of mana, easy ways to refill your hand, and easy methods to convert these resources into a win. This leads to the infamous Combo Winter, a standard environment so unhealthy that you were either playing a combo deck or losing. And even if you were playing combo, so was your opponent. The winner ended up largely being determined by who went first. Something needed to be done, and so Wizards of the Coast comes out with an announcement. For the sake of format health, they will be banning a huge swath of cards in Standard. While this helped alleviate some of the issues, it was also bad for business, and so came the day of reckoning. Trumpets sounded, the clouds parted, and Peter Adkinson, Wizards of the Coast CEO at the time, descended to deliver the design team a message. If this ever happened again, they would all be fired. This is how important card balance was to Magic the Gathering. Fast forward to June 30th, 2025. After a massive 42.3 representation of Izzet Prowess dominating Pro Tour Final Fantasy's metagame, Wizards of the Coast announced that they will be banning 7 cards total in Standard. This time around, without so much as saying whoops. Take a look at this timeline. It was put together by Reddit user LegendVD to show the number of cards banned in Standard by year. You'll notice a few prominent peaks. This right here is Combo Winter, and over on this end, the most recent couple of years. In the modern day, it's starting to seem more and more like bans don't matter to Wizards of the Coast. They've increased in frequency and count over time, with little acknowledgement that something deeper is amiss. So, how did we get here? When Standard was the most popular format in Magic the Gathering, balance ruled card design. Bans were part of a self-regulating ecosystem, which functioned like this. Step 1. WotC messes up and releases a broken card. Step 2. The format homogenizes around the card, and a dominant strategy starts to take over. It becomes wildly overrepresented at tournaments, and players start dropping off from the game. Step 3. WotC bans the card for the sake of format health. The price sharply declines, and players who invested in the strategy lose a chunk of money. Step 4. Players lose trust that their cards will retain value. They leave the game or reduce spending in the future so they don't get blown out by bans again. You'll notice that all roads out of this mess lead to a loss of players and their revenue. Because of this, WotC was not just responsible for balancing cards, but monetarily incentivized to do so. There's a sweet spot to hit here. Bad cards wouldn't sell packs, losing them money. Strong but balanced cards would sell packs without causing distrust to the brand. Broken cards, however, ruined formats, and this problem would either be ignored, which caused players to lose interest in the game, or require bans, which eroded consumer confidence. Both of these options lead to fewer sales being seen in following sets. Tournament play being critical to the game was the glue that held this system together. Without it, R&D could afford to get sloppy. And so, surprise surprise, Wizards of the Coast has recently been moving away from a focus on organized play. This is ushered in by a number of changes. The first is a very direct shift away from funding them. There were massive cuts to appearance fees for pros participating in tournaments. And when I say massive, I mean reduced by over 75% of the original amount. The Pro League, which was created to facilitate the dream of competitive Magic as a career, was dissolved entirely. GPs, or Grands Prix, were also just axed. There were several confusing changes to how scores and points were calculated that had everyone's heads in a spin. Wizards of the Coast also cut ties with the Judge Academy, making it much harder for tournament organizers to find judges to populate their events. Yes, Wizards has recently started backpedaling on this last point, but in my mind, praising this decision is a bit like congratulating someone for putting out a house fire they started. Although many people like to point the finger at a certain disease for the destruction of organized play, I think that it's more likely Wizards finally had the excuse they'd been looking for to leap away from facilitating tournaments. But this shift of focus didn't come entirely from Wizards. After all, focus can't shift without having something else to shift onto. Commander's rousing success as a format has changed the game of Magic, for better or for worse. After official acknowledgement by WotC in 2011, it's been on a steady and exponential incline in popularity. There were a whopping 24 Commander Precon decks released by Wizards in 2024. Between dedicated products and the visible shift towards designing standard legal cards for Commander, it has become apparent that the community-made format is currently the most popular way to play Magic. While I love Commander, this causes issues in our earlier ban ecosystem. Relevant to this discussion is the way Commander is played. The overwhelming majority of Commander players do not participate in tournaments. CEDH exists, sure, but the player base is rather small and the events are mostly grassroots. WotC doesn't even sponsor any of these events themselves as far as I know. They've announced plans to through CEDH PT, but that's yet to materialize. Point being, now that the most popular way to play Magic has changed, there is no longer as much importance placed on the health of tournament environments. EDH is full of broken and unbalanced synergies, but a social contract formed within each play group keeps their power levels in check. In light of this, Wizards can design cards that are egregiously powerful, and the onus will fall on the players not to play them, rather than the company to control their designs. There's also a growing population that does not care about Magic as a game whatsoever. Even still, they spend money on the product. A good example of this is the consumer base for the recent Final Fantasy set. The set had some standout performances, Vivier Nidier for example, but it didn't have a great number of broken cards. Nevertheless, this set sold $200 million worth of cards in a single day. Both because of the lack of competitive impact and the inflated consumer base, it's obvious that a number of people are buying this set based on novelty. Many Final Fantasy fans just want to have their favorite characters represented well on cardboard, have them on display, and think the special treatments are neat to have sitting on their desks. These people are happy regardless of whether or not their cardboard is banned in a game they're not playing in a format they've never heard of. This also includes collectors. Final Fantasy came complete with record-expensive collector boxes, and limited edition full-art golden chocobos. With this much of a focus on collectability, there is undoubtedly a sizable population buying cards just to have them, or to gamble on the secondary market. Because of all these reasons, Wizards' revenue has substantially decoupled from the needs of Standard. But what is there to gain by doing this? A powerful new tool. They can engage in a cycle of creating broken cards, stirring up hype in sales, later banning many of them from Standard, seeing little recourse, and repeating the process. This also synergizes nicely with Commander's eternal nature. Since Magic's most popular format is now eternal rather than rotating, Hasbro is incentivized to continue cranking up the power levels of cards. This way, Commander players have a reason to buy product, replacing previous cards that have now been made obsolete by newer, stronger ones. If bans can happen with little issue, then ratcheting up power levels to irresponsible degrees will make sure Standard product sells with Commander players. Don't worry everyone, it will only significantly damage Standard until the next ban wave. Uh-oh. This is obviously a rough deal for the consumer. Power creep will accelerate, invalidating parts of your collection, and Standard will continue experiencing unbalanced formats. So, what can be done about this? Well, the strategy being implemented here has a huge weakness. Moving away from tournaments being the backbone of Magic gives the players more control over their environment. What I mean by this is, you're almost certainly playing Commander at home, and if you're playing Standard, in light of the recent issues with competitive play, you're more likely than ever to be playing that against your friends as well. If this is the case, then why don't you boot up the old HP LaserJet? You know, decide that right here and right now, we're gonna have a little reprint set featuring all of your favorite expensive cards. The primary reason to purchase Wizard-sanctioned cards is that they can be used in tournaments, but without intentions of tournament play, there's little reason to seek out legitimate copies. No judge is going to come to your house and kick down your door to issue you a game loss. Partially because you'd be hard-pressed to find a judge right now after the Academy debacle. We can complain online until we're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, corporations only speak one language: money. Vote with your wallet, and if there's something you don't like, it should be something you don't buy. My hope, personally, is that this video will quickly date itself. There have been talks at Wizards of the Coast to move back to supporting tournaments in some ways, picking up the judges program again being a great first step. So, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Wizards has a plan and interest in revitalizing Standard. But two things. One, they've been saying this for a couple of years now, and two, in my experience, it's much better to adjust your outlook for the current situation rather than accounting for projections that have yet to materialize. So future aside, for the time being, I'll be operating under the assumption that, To the creators of the game, bans don't matter. But maybe you feel differently, and that's what the comments are for. I know that the tone of this video is largely pessimistic, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little envious of the people that got to experience a thriving, standard-forward Magic. Feel free to tell me about your experiences in those times, or about what you're looking forward to in Magic's future. Like the video if you think this accurately represented your feelings on the situation. If you believe your friends would get some value out of it, then consider sharing it with them. I always appreciate help getting the word out about this little project of mine. Subscribing will help you hear about when I upload. Hopefully, YouTube's a bit finicky with that. And I have a Discord, where I have more direct notifications, like to hang out with you guys, and get some Commander games in during the week. Lastly, I have a Blue Sky. Follow me there to see me live tweet about how bad my opening hands are. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.